Hi, everybody. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Soicki with For Better, For Worse.
Tonight, we're going to be talking about arousal. And boy, have we had to deal with that just a few minutes ago. And being calm and everything else. So let us know you're there. Again, today's topic is going to be arousal in dogs and how to calm them down. And there's a lot more to it. This is probably, this topic is probably a two-parter, but we're going to try to get through as much as we can because it gets very complicated, incredibly. So hello. Hi, everybody. Okay. So really quick. Hi, Donna. We missed you at the trial this weekend. I hope everything's better for you now. So anyway, so what we're going to talk about is arousal and how it affects dogs and what it is and what it isn't. I think there's a lot of I don't know, miscommunication or misunderstanding about what arousal is and about how we calm dogs down and how how that can work with us and against us and actually affect our relationships with our dogs, right? So so really quickly, arousal, we all have to have it, right? If we wouldn't be aroused, we would be dead. Same with dogs, right? Arousal comes in varying degrees. And arousal is critical to performance, and that includes sleeping. So arousal is necessary, and it's not a bad thing. And it's depending on what you are wanting to use it for, right? And again, how we are biologically, and dogs are biologically predisposed, is going to affect what their arousal is. So what we're going to hopefully gain from today is recognizing productive arousal versus non-productive arousal, and hopefully how to help your dogs handle and help them with that, and what you can do to understand them better, right, and have a better relationship with them. So that's kind of our goal for today. So we encourage you to ask questions. If you don't understand something, please let us know, and we will try to help you out and understand. So anything else you want to add to that, Joanne?
Yeah, no, you kind of hit on it, right? I think we're trained to think that arousal is a bad thing, and it's not. I mean, sometimes, when you think about it, I think about sports like dock diving or even police dogs, right? Sometimes that arousal, you need it for the job that you're asking the dog to do. However, when arousal becomes too high and gets out of control, right, then you have the police dog that sort of flies by the person they're supposed to bite, or can't think clearly enough to do their job. And that's sort of a little more about why I think a lot of you tuned in, is like, you probably have dogs more on the spectrum of, oh my gosh, how do I get him to calm down? He is very unproductive and that. So that's we understand that. We both have some dogs like that. So
right. And one of the things, an arousal can go up, but it also can go down. So that arousal all goes both ways, right? How dogs handle it. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that arousal goes both directions, goes up and goes down. So that's where we have dogs shutting down, dogs not being able to work things out. So that's kind of what I wanted you to understand what arousal does. And Joanne really hit it on the head. Arousal goes in varying degrees, and depending on the job or what you're asking your dog to do, whether it's going out for a walk or playing with another dog friend or riding in the car or whatever, depending on what you're asking the dog to do, the context, the arousal depends on the context, right? What you're asking your dog to do. So those people that are doing dog sports, you want a certain level of arousal in your dog so that they can perform what you're asking them to do. And those of you who have family pets that just want the dog to chill, you want a dog with a maybe lower arousal. It's not a bad thing. It's what right. You want for your life and your family, right?
Right. You're not going to look for the same type of dog if you want to go be a therapy dog in the hospital, right? As you are if you want to be, an agility person or an IPO person or somebody who, really wants a real fast dog that's kind of up a lot. So, I think that's a whole nother Facebook Live, right? Is how to match the dog with what you're looking for. But, right. When you're seeking for a certain arousal level, right. I want my dog to go on a walk and hang out on the couch and be there when I'm home from work is not the same as dog sporting people look for.
Right. They're a little busier. And the other thing is arousal and how dogs handle arousal, it really depends. Temperament has a lot to do with it. And so temperament is kind of, what you're genetically predisposed to. And personality is kind of that layer of experience and things that you've learned along the way that maybe develops their personality a little bit. Same like us, right? Very much like people. Oh, Jeanette, you made it home. Yay.
Or she's watching on her way home.
Oh, God. Be careful if you are. So one of the things that, so we're going to talk about arousal, be functional, right? And functional means that they're able to think in a maybe a more heightened state of arousal. So a good example, like Joanne said, is a protection dog that can actually execute what you're asking them in a high level of arousal, right? And so we also want to be, and I forgot, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. I want to clarify arousal and energy are two different things. They are not the same thing. Okay. Energy is what we're predisposed. There's people who are very active and busy, and there are people who are very chilled and are not as active. Dogs are the same. And that is something that does not change over time. If you have a high energy puppy, you're going to have a high energy dog. If you have a low energy puppy, you're going to have a low energy dog. Energy is what we're born with, right? Which is why some people are very, go-getters and physically very active, and other people are more relaxed and chilled. So, which is great. That's what makes us all great and able to, differences. We're all different that way. Dogs are too.
Yep. One of the greatest ways somebody told me to kind of look at energy level in a dog is when they kind of wake up from a nap on the couch, right? How do they go to the water bowl to get a drink? Do they kind of slink off the couch and saunter over? Do they trot over, or do they run everywhere they go? So, right. And that's kind of a truth of energy, where there are some dogs who do not walk through life, right? They are everywhere they're going, and it doesn't change.
Right. And so the dog that's running around and left, and this is where you want to also measure energy. That was a really good example. The other one is when the dog is left to do their own thing and be a dog, how do they move through space? Like Joanne said, are they just walking over? Are they running? That is what, especially when you're looking to select a puppy, that matters a lot, right? If you're looking to select a puppy and you have the puppy that's running all over the place, you better like that, because you're going to have a lot of it. Or if you have a dog that's just kind of laying and sleeping and relaxing, that's also what it's going to be, unless the puppy is sick, right? That's always a different thing.
Yes. So Jill, I think when you're talking energy, you're right? If you're kind of chilling out on the couch, your dog might chill on the couch with you. Or definitely if you have more nervous or anxiety type, right? Yeah, that sort of does feed down the leash to a lot of dogs. Some dogs don't care, but a lot do. But I think we're talking specifically about movement energy, right? Not necessarily the emotional energy between the beings, but more so the speed in which they move through life, like Nancy had said.
Right. And Janice, really good question. What's the difference between drive and arousal? Drive is partly arousal and motivation, right? Because you can be aroused without being motivated. but you can't. But you can't go the other way, right? You can be aroused and not be motivated, but you cannot be motivated without being aroused. So the drive incorporates arousal and motivation, right? Because you can have a dog that has really high arousal, but not a lot of motivation to do stuff, they just like running and being around, and they don't want to do it. So that's the big difference. So the lovely balance here, if you want a dog with nice drive, you want nice moderate arousal with a very biddable, motivated dog, right? And that will give you what you want, depending on if you're, especially, I know Janice does dog sports. So, because you can have a dog that's very aroused, but doesn't really want to work with you. They don't want to be part of your team. They just want to do whatever they want,
those are fun. Those are the fun dogs to work with.
Because you can have a dog that's really aroused, but they don't want to work with you. That's different than a dog that's interested in working with you and being a team. And people think that a dog that's just running around like a crazy person or a crazy dog and doing all this stuff is really drivey. No, you want that balance of being aroused and having the desire to want to work with you, which is, that's what you would look for. So that's the difference. So drive is a combination of arousal and motivation, right? Arousal is, I can give you a really nice definition. Arousal is a biological reaction, right? It incorporates the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. It is what gets us excited. So it is how we react to the environment is when we get aroused. So Joanne and I can both win $1,000. Our reaction to that is going to be different, right? I'm going to be really excited about it. Joanne's she'll be excited, but her arousal only goes up so high, where my arousal goes up a lot faster and a lot higher than Joanne's, right? So it's how you incorporate it. So let me see if I can find a really...
So I would kind of take it this way, right?
Good definition.
I like to use fear a lot. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. I kind of like to use fear, right? And that's going to be more so, on the other side of arousal, but we go up and down, right? That fight or flight response. I'm sure everyone has heard of that, right? That is one of the cores of arousal right there is what arousal controls. So let's just say, she's talking about, we won the lottery. Woohoo. How excited are we going to get? What if you saw a snake, right? Some people might be in the next county, right? They might take off the other way because they're in that huge flight response where, I own a snake. So I'm like, oh, cool. Come here. What kind? When'd you get it? Come here, little fella. Right. So, my arousal is not going to bleep much from baseline. What is it? What does it do? It controls a lot of, how excited or how fearful you can get, right?
Right.
Can you find another example?
Yeah. It's arousal is a complex interaction of our nervous systems, and we are genetically predisposed to have arousal. Arousal doesn't change in people or in animals at all. It is what it is, right? You can put layers of training to help it, but we probably reacted the same way to good news, bad news, and scary things all our lives. That is, arousal is part of who we are. It's genetic, same like dogs, right? So it's all the both genetics and experience contribute to arousal, especially early, especially for puppies, early experiences and puppy development. So it is a genetic component of who we are, right? It's basically how we react to stimuli, right? Do we get aroused quickly? Do we get excited quickly? Or does it take a lot to get somebody, get somebody excited about something? So, and how quickly do you get there? Do you go slowly and get excited over time, or do you just go boom from 0 to 60 in no time, right?
Yeah. So Carolyn, I love her. She classically has a breed that everybody stereotypes, which is a beagle, right? So can breed overshadow motivation, sniffing. He's sniffing rather than jumping agility, right? Um, yes and no, right? Certain breeds were bred to do certain things. So don't get hung up that, oh, it's a beagle, it will fill in the blank, right? Or, oh, it's a husky, it's fill in the blank. It won't work for you, right? But understand, as a breed, a lot of times there are shared traits, but no breed, all dogs in the breed are the same. Okay. So yeah, sometimes you can have traits in a breed that make things a little more difficult, but that's why people love the breed. They love other things about them.
Right. And Vanessa, you can modify, genetics are set. You cannot change who we are. You can layer some learning on top of it to modify that behavior. But when you peel away the learning, or you put them in, or you put a dog or a human in a situation that's going to create that, they will elicit that behavior, that original behavior that is genetically there, right? You can modify, you can help it, but you're not changing it.
And yeah, and I want to touch on what she said, because back in the day, I fell into that. Yeah. No, I've totally changed it, right?
Nope.
You as an owner may absolutely teach your dog skills, right, that kind of keep some of that at bay. But if somebody picked your dog up in a parking lot, that's who they are, right? If they didn't know how to do wait or calm down or easy or any of those types of things that we sort of teach them, right? They don't know those commands. That dog's going to revert right back to the jumping crazy maniac, right?
Right. And the reason, and Vanessa, I went through, when I started learning operant conditioning and all that. Oh, I used to think I was like, yep, we can change it, and we can, no. And it was very, very frustrating for many, many years. And finally, I started doing some more research, and finally, it was, then you got the answers. But when I started doing operant, I'm like, oh my God, I must be the worst training in the world, because I cannot get this behavior. It keeps coming back in different places, because that's the thing, right? It's very contextual. Arousal is contextual. You can have good arousal for an agility dog, and that arousal is great, and they're going to give you some really good performances. And then that same arousal is going to make you a little bit crazy at home. So it is contextually appropriate what they give you. But arousal is one of those traits. You can change certain things. You can change confidence. You can make that much better. You can make that better. But arousal is what it is, for all of us, right? Yeah. So Vanessa, I went through many, many years. I've been training a long time. I've been through many, many years. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Because I couldn't, some of the behaviors, especially with arousal, they would be okay for a while, and then they wouldn't, depending on the context and depending on what they were trying to do. So then, because you would think if you changed it, they should be good, right? But it wasn't that way. So yeah, you can make it better, but you also have to be always aware that it depends on the context that you're asking them to do it. So it was a very frustrating time as I was learning as a new trainer. It took me a long time to figure that out. It was very, very stressful for me, because I thought I was just the worst trainer in the world. I couldn't get how come he can be okay in the store and he can't be okay in a pack full of dogs? I don't understand that, right? So until I finally started looking a little further. Yep, I have GSDs too. Speaking of which, we're going to talk a little bit about arousal with my GSD. Wait, somebody, Deborah, arousal and excitability is the same. Yes. Right. We just call it we use certain terms because the general public, when you say, well, your dog has high arousal, they're like, what? It's really, they're excitable, and how quickly they go from 0 to 60. Right. Yeah, it depends on how and how quickly they go back to baseline. So,
yeah, and I'm just going to give you a little quick example of kind of what we're talking about. Oh my God, a heavy arousal. I love my Doberman to death. I talk about him a lot on these, but oh my gosh, I said he would be returned so fast if he was in a regular pet home. So I was taking a class at Nancy's when I first got him because I just wanted to get him out to new places. And the class was really great. It was called Focused Fido. And one of the things we were working on is arousal, right? So excite your dog, bring him back. Excite your dog, can you bring him back down, and get him to calm down again. So she gives a direction to the class and she says, I want you to do something that will excite your dog. And then I want you to bring him right back down and let's work on relaxation. I'm not even kidding you. I didn't make a sound. This is all I did to my dog. And he was all feet off the floor at my head. That was it. So when you talk about, like, do you drive a Pinto or do you drive a Lamborghini? I drive a Lamborghini, right? That's what he is. And I mean, he loves to floor it. He's a race car driver through and through. I should have named him Ricky Bobby, but yeah. Right. It's
been perfect for him.
I know. So, if you think about, can you do that to your dog? What if you made that face to your dog? What are they going to do? Like, okay. Wag their tail a little, maybe. So the spectrum is wide as to what will arouse your dog. Right.
Right.
So it's different for everybody.
Right. So, Carolyn, you asked a really great question. Wow, you're on a roll today. You can direct arousal through motivation. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you, if you have a dog that tends to be highly aroused, and I don't know if Erin's on here, she might not be, but you can, if you can give, right? If you have a dog that's aroused, you want to be, sometimes those 0 to 60 dogs require a lot more patience. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, so examples of behaviors that cannot be changed. I'll give you a behavioral, and again, it's arousal again. It's arousal again. For example, I have a min pin that is now, I think, 11 or 12 that I rescued. She resource guarded very early on as a young puppy, 8 weeks old. She was resource guarding. It wasn't as scary because she was, this big. She's a 12-pound dog now. So for example, I did a lot of training. We did a lot of positive reinforcement. So basically she looks cured, right? She doesn't resource guard anymore. You can take anything away from her. You don't even have to trade anymore. She did she just looks very well. Like she like, you would never know she was a resource guarder unless I told you. However, if you give her something to chew and you start to do that creepy kind of, I want to get it, she will start to go back to that. You will elicit that behavior again. And this is 12 years later. She won't bite you, but you can elicit the behavior of the guarding and the low confidence. And this is 12 now. And now in our regular life, we can go through, we can do everything, but I can elicit that behavior anytime I want to. And if it's a different person that'll come and try to take something, it'll elicit that behavior, if depending on their approach, right? So will she bite us or whatever? No. You would never know the dog has that behavior. But that resource guarding behavior and that arousal, the minute you approach her in a certain way, you can elicit the behavior yet again. So yeah, those are energy can't be changed either. If you have an energetic puppy, you're going to have an energetic dog, as we said earlier. Arousal. Confidence, you can change. You can totally layer that with lovely things and make the dog a lot more confident, right? So that's a mutable trait that you can do. Buildability too. A dog that wants to work with you. They're going to show you that early on as a puppy. Yes, I want to work with you, or no, they don't. And you can make that better. I don't know if you can change it, but you can totally make it so that the dog can do that. So,
yeah. So I think we answered Terry, and Susan, one of those kind of things, a dog over arousal can create nippy behavior, right? They get grabby, they get nippy. It's just, I don't know what to do with myself, right? It's kind of like a temper tantrum a little bit in a kid where they just and hit something. So it's definitely one of the big things that it's hard to do is when the dog gets over aroused, right? We as humans, what do you want to do? Which is why we titled this, right? just calm down, relax, right? And so we get a little stressed out because they're being crazy and you just want them to stop, right? So one of the best things to do with a dog like that is the slower you move, right? The more you can find your Zen space, right? And you can chill out and just be more still, right? Just it helps them, right? Because if you're not meeting them up at that high arousal rate, you know, because I promise when you have a dog that goes from 0 to 60, like we're talking about, you get to 60, they'll go to 80. They always have more in that tank. Okay. So
yeah.
First thing in dealing with a lot of this is just, I know it's hard, but be quiet, calm down, move slower.
Right. Not exactly. So Lisa asked about, you're bringing home a Doberman pup and you have a 4-year-old Siamese cat. Suggestions, I'll give you it. Keeping that interaction between that puppy and that cat really calm, right? Letting the puppy run up to it, keeping the puppy calm around that cat. And the cat will actually, if it's a puppy, you should be fine. I have 2 cats. They have trained 2 shepherds and a lab. And the lab was a tough one. The shepherds were pretty easy. The cat was very clear about the rules, and the shepherds were like, got it. The lab took a little longer to figure out the rules. But I think making sure the interactions are brief and calm, really important, right? So small space, don't let not real small space, but don't let the puppy be able to chase the cat, because then it's very reinforcing. So make sure the cat can get away from the puppy, but without a lot of like a big space where the cat runs and the dog chases it, because then that creates a whole lot of not so great things later on. And the cat will be very clear with, hopefully the cat's dog savvy and will be able to train your puppy in no time. My shepherds were trained by the time they were, gosh, mine was 6 months old, and he was like, okay, my lab was a little older. She was like 9-10 months. Took a little longer on her. But
yep. And if I don't know if you can see mine in the doorway, but you can definitely see Nancy's. We are a big fan of baby gates, right? So they have pretty good sales on Amazon. You can go to your Target or Walmart and get one of the old school $10 ones. But you know, and this goes for bringing home a new dog or a cat, right? Space. Give them a chance to give the resident animal a space to be away from the new animal so that they can take their time with interactions if they choose.
Yep. Yeah, I love your comment, Liz. Loki's a Porsche. Yeah, honey. Well on crack. I got that. Okay. So somebody asked, Sully is 9 months and just starting to lay down on crate usually. Okay. So it makes it worse. Yeah. And so just starting to. So we're going to talk really, really quick about the first thing Joanne said is like key, right? To deal with a dog that goes from 0 to 60 is you do not match that energy. Just keep it calm, right? So keep yourself calm. So a couple of things that help. When you are trying to get your dog to learn a little bit of impulse control, self-control, and things like that, you definitely want the dog to be able to, if the dog sees another dog at 50 feet away and loses his mind, don't get any closer, because you're not going to make it better. And I think that's what we tend to do. We tend to put the dogs in positions where the arousal is already super high. You want the arousal for training and for learning to be where the dog can see whatever stimulus is exciting, but still be able to focus on you or on something, be able to learn, be able to focus on what you're asking. If the dog, like somebody just put that the dog was barking and wants to jump out the window. So my suggestion would be, she can't have that window because that's too hard. So you have to set her up where she can't the guy coming in. Does that mean that you could go outside and she's okay with the guy coming? But it's different when they're on the other side of the window. Just because they're crazy when they're on the side of a gate or a window does not mean they're going to be crazy when they're, if they're on a leash and they get to visit the guy coming in, right?
Right. So even taking one step backwards from that, right? Because I think we have a lot of new folks joining us tonight. If your goal is the dog and getting your dog to be calm, looking at another dog, right? What's your plan for that? Because it's not look at the dog, right? It like I would be teaching a really good sit or a down. And again, it's not about the obedience command. That is not what it's about. What it's about, can you chill out in a position, right? And it's not a stay. I'm just asking you, right? Can you sit or can you lay down? Because if the dog cannot do that and they know the command, right? They understand it well. They can do it 99% of their day, right? That's a really, really, really good way to ask the dog what's going on in your brain. Okay. Because I'm sure you guys have all been there. If your dog really knows a sit very, very well, and you've been like, sit, 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 sit. The dog's like, and they're spinning in a circle, right? And they can't do it. So what they're telling you is, I cannot. I hear you. Can't split my attention between what's happening and what I'm looking at and you. Okay. It's not that I don't hear you. My arousal's so high, can't do it. So you have to take some of that away. So I would start in my living room with no distractions and really make sure that I have a baseline of what I'm going to ask the dog to do and that they understand it very well.
Right. Right. Because one of the things that you want to be able to do is the dog needs to be able to, think, that not be so aroused to think. And especially those of you that looks like you have a lot of little guys, little puppies, that's the time when you start teaching them how to control themselves and learn impulse control. That doesn't mean they're not going to be so overexcited on other things, but allowing them to practice that bad behavior. So like there's somebody here that says a 10-week-old GSD, that a shepherd that gets crazy when he's comes out of the crate. Excitement and arousal is the same thing, really. We just call it excitement. So one thing he would learn before he comes out of the crate is to sit. Can you control yourself enough to sit before you come out of that crate? Which would require you ask him to sit, he understands sit, you're going to reinforce it, and then you're going to let him out, right? And be able to do his thing. So allowing him to just bolt out of the crate or just get crazy to come out of the crate, you're going to wait, take a breath, and teach him how to sit before he comes out of that crate, right? And
Yep.
that, especially a puppy that young, that is gold. If you teach that dog, that is a great training opportunity. And you get a lot of those opportunities. And those of you with puppies, that's number one. You don't get to bolt out of the crate or bolt out of the door. You're going to wait till you come out of the door. And I'm big on that, on bolting out of the door. One, I had little dogs before. I still have 2 little ones, but my little ones, that would keep them from getting killed running out the door. Second is I have 2 really big dogs. I have a 95-pound shepherd and a 70-pound shepherd. Running out the door would kill me. So you wait until I let you out, period. Right?
Yep. And remember, guys, you are always 100% of the time training your dogs. Whether or not you mean to, they are learning just like little kids, right? I always use the example of like you have the best little kid and they accidentally hear that 4-letter word and then they run around saying it, right? And you didn't even think they were listening. Dogs are the same way, especially puppies, right? So Debbie, to you, right? What's he learning gets him out of the crate. So that's where you really want to nip that right now. And it doesn't have to be mean, right? Just guess you're not ready to come out yet.
Right. And teaching your dog. Well, greeting on leash, Penny, and greeting in the dog park are 2 different things. Dogs can be great. Usually when dogs are off leash, and I'm going to dogs are off leash, they're able to get away and they have that sense of control of their environment. When they're on leash, they don't have that, they don't feel that control. So you can have a dog that's lovely with other dogs off leash, but when you put them on leash to greet is not going to be a good thing. And that excitability and stress can come from not having the freedom to move away if something happens with that other dog. So I'm not a big proponent of allowing dogs to meet on leash because bad things usually happen. And I have my little dogs never get to meet other dogs on leash because they're little and they can get, hurt really easily.
So speaking of on leash, Kathy had a question about her 2-year-old corgi, which this I think is pretty typical when you have kind of a pack of dogs, multiples, more than 2 in your house, right? They get very excited going through thresholds, right? Or transitional spaces, doorways, doors to the inside or outside, gates, stairs, anything, right? And so again, when you're talking like now he's doing this, he's getting excited and he's going to nip at the other dogs. First of all, you're lucky that the other dogs are actually hiding, because that could be a big dog fight multiple times in your house. But what you want to do is don't let him rehearse that behavior. And it's a pain in the butt. And it might be, I might call him to me. I might put a leash on him. I might ask him to sit. Everybody else go, or I might ask him to, watch me and walk through a space, right? And then he's not getting the opportunity, if you hook a leash to him, right, to go after those other dogs. Because the more a dog rehearses a behavior, the more it becomes instilled in them, right? And when you get into when you get into the science of it, right, that's why addiction is so hard to break. Because when you do something, whether it's smoking or eating or drugs or drinking, right, like when you get into the habit of, a month, every day for a month, I'm going to have a glass of red wine with my dinner, right? On day 31, you're like, well, this isn't right. I usually have a glass of red wine with my dinner. It just becomes habitual. And it's no different for dogs. Okay. So really, really, stop. That's the first thing. Stop letting him do it. And then you can work on ways to kind of calm him down. I would hook him up so he doesn't have a way, right? Just get a nice leash and ask him to sit while everybody else gets up to move.
Yeah. Christy, you're right. Practice makes permanent and practice makes perfect. So remember, you guys, whatever your dog is practicing a lot of, they're going to get real good at it, right? So how do you introduce dogs if to introduce a pup before and they growl? So Susan, I would probably talk to a trainer that you trust and maybe have some play dates and things like that, because that is a very big challenge, you guys, those of you with young dogs. And those of you who have dogs like cane corsers, GSDs, and some of those other guardian breeds, important to introduce them to other dogs and have them be okay, but have good experiences at that age. Because if they have a bad experience, things go bad. So you want to maybe find people that have nice dogs or good dogs that you can trust that are going to be good with your young puppy, right? The growling, and you never want to correct growling because that's information, right?
Yeah, but when we get new dogs, I will tell you, a lot of times they will not meet a dog we don't know, right?
Yeah.
Because I want every single interaction with that dog to be, if not positive, then at least a teaching moment that's never going to harm or scare my dog.
Right. And Susan, if he doesn't want to play, it's okay. He doesn't have to. All dogs don't have to like other dogs. He just can't growl and just you want to, he ignores them. But if he doesn't want to play, that's fine. But if he can be okay around them while they're playing and he doesn't want to do anything, and then also make sure you're not right there, because a lot of times sounds like he might be afraid of other dogs. So if you're right there, it's easy to growl. So make sure you're standing and moving around. So he has to kind of have to handle the situation on his own a little bit, right? Because a lot of them, if they're worried, they might, you know what I mean? If they're really, you might just give them that freedom to be able to be okay without you. I mean, you're not leaving, but you're maybe standing up, maybe moving around a little bit in that area. So in that space.
Yep. And Trisha, I would give you sort of a similar advice as the lady with the corgis, right? Don't let the dog practice jumping on people. If you want to pet my dog, their rear end better be on the floor, right? Or at least 4 feet. Right? If they jump, I'm not petting you. Sorry.
Yeah. So really quickly, a couple of things that you want to teach your young dogs or your old dogs, doesn't matter, is they need to check in with you before they make any decisions about running to the door or that kind of behavior. I'm going to put a link to Suzanne Clothier's Relaxation Protocol. We use it a lot, especially for those. I think Carolyn asked about their arousal for, and we'll talk a little bit about dog sports, but the Relaxation Protocol is a really, it really works well. And you can buy the video. We use it a lot in our business, and we actually, that's one of the first things I taught my young puppies. I have 2 young dogs. They're both 4 years old now, but that's how we started our being able to be around the different environments and being able to be around other dogs, et cetera, in a calm fashion, because I don't want my dogs being over aroused or whatever. So it's really, really, really important. So a couple of things. So that's number one. So they, it was putting me to sleep. I know, Sharon, the relaxation protocol and anything that has to do with impulse control is boring.
But no, I think she means it was like so calming that she was starting to fall asleep, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it is like watching paint dry. So I'm just going to tell you, but that's what your dogs need, especially if you have a young adolescent dog. So number one is getting them a good attention on you, whether it's the auto check-in or watch me or whatever you guys do, because everybody does a different thing. We use the auto check-in. Other people do the watch me. A lot of what we do and a lot of the most effective ways we found to handle arousal is when the dog makes the choice to calm down. Us trying to control it means that it's dependent on us, it's really hard. So I like to put the onus on the dog. You will control yourself and you will not behave this way, right? So it's really important that they make that choice, not you make it for them, unless you're managing the situation. So it's a difference between training and managing. If you're training, that means the dog is able to think, you're in a good space, and they're able to learn with their arousals on check. If you're managing, that means there's no learning happening. You're just getting them out of that situation or moving them to another space. Right?
Yep. Yep. So I'm let's see. Caitlin had Yeah. So here's the thing, Caitlin. It's really hard because, bathing and grooming is your business, right? And I get that. But when we really talk about dogs that are nipping, right? That's a really scary moment for a lot of dogs. A lot of times they're not in their home, right? They're not with their owners. Sometimes that can make it better or worse, depending on the dog. But suggestions for correcting behavior. It's really, really hard because I've seen a lot of groomers who, they'll just kind of string them up or muzzle them or whatever. And in the grand scheme of learning for the dog, that makes next time way worse. Right? So it's like, imagine if you went to the doctor and every time they gave you 6 injections that hurt like crazy. What would you think about going to the doctor by the 3rd time? Right? And so I think it's very much the same with dogs. And it stinks a little bit because, I would rather, tell the owner, hey, your dog doesn't really enjoy this experience. Here's some things that I would like you to start working with them, right? Touch their feet, give them a cookie, open their mouth, give them a cookie, brush their hair, give them a cookie. Even if it's not a full grooming, right? Just get a cheap curry comb or something and just, brush them and let them know that really, really good things happen. And I know, oh my gosh, I have a Vizsla as well. And I swear it's just bred into them. They hate their nails done. So, I allow him to jump on a grooming table and jump off when he's, needs a minute, and then he'll come back on. And he does let me do all 20 nails, right? Off and on, off and on, off and on. But when he says I need a minute, I'm going to give it to him. So, if you have the ability to, do something for 30 seconds or 60 seconds or, a couple minutes, have a cookie party, give them a little break, come back. Right. I know with bathing, sometimes it's really hard. You can't really leave a wet dog, but those types of moments, right? Like maybe we got you wet. Oh, let's have some cookies, right? Maybe I put some soap on the front of you. Let's have some cookies, scrub it in, have some cookies, right? And just do what you can to make that a better experience for the dog. Because right, usually growling, aggression, and nipping is the dog's only way to tell you, I don't enjoy what's happening to me.
Yeah. You can also try a licky mat. I love those.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forgot.
Those are great for baths.
Well, or if you even have the licky mats, you can even just smear peanut butter on the front, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like on the front of your tub.
Yeah. And that's true. That is true. It's a matter of time until management fails, because management will fail. And it has been there,
Always.
done that. So really quickly, I wanted to kind of go over when you can start seeing that your dog is getting aroused. Number one, if you're giving him treats, and those treats, they're taking the treats a little harder, that already is telling you their arousal is going up. Okay. And those of you who are in that training moment, right? That arousal is going up if they start to grab those treats a little hard. You can use cream cheese and peanut butter mix. Those are great.
Or Braunschweiger, which is the liver sausage and cream cheese.
Yeah. Those are great. Mm-hmm. And what you start to see as arousal increases is motor control goes out the window. For example, I'm sure some of you have seen a dog running around and you're amazed how they're not running into stuff. They're running so fast, but they have complete control over their bodies and they're able to make a turn and do everything perfectly. And then you've seen dogs that they start getting excited, and that dog's motor skills, they're running into things, they're falling down, they're rolling, because they're fine. Their motor control is starting to fail when they get overexcited, or when they start pulling on the leash and everything else.
Or another really, really great one, if your dogs play with toys and you play with them, you have a couple of really good, they come in, they grab the toy, they're doing good, and the fourth or fifth time they grab your finger instead. Right? That arousal is going up. They know where they're putting those mouths with more precision than you could ever imagine. So if they get you, they do not know where they're putting their mouth. Right? And that's caused by the arousal loss of motor control.
Right. So, and Alex, with Kaiser, he's 10 months old. That auto check-in is number one. So it might take you a little while to get to class, but you're gonna check in with me. You're gonna focus, and then we're gonna move a few steps. And that attention needs to be on you. So you need to, and remember, you guys, if you're trying to move, especially with other dogs, movement increases arousal. So stop, get a minute for the dog to come down, and then keep going. So you might not get very far. It might take you a little while, but that's the same thing with when I was teaching my dog not to pull. Right? You cannot drag me across. So sometimes from my car to the front of my door is maybe 30 feet. It used to sometimes take me a little while to get there, because they wanted to drag me and pull, and they were so excited. They wanted to visit the other dogs. It's like, no. So you check in with me. Let's focus. Okay, let's keep going. All right. Oh, you're excited. Check in with me and focus. It's the auto check-in, Terry, is it's voluntary on the dog. Again, this is another Suzanne exercise. It's voluntary on the dog, and you don't give them a command. They do it on their own, which becomes more of who they are. So that's why a lot of the way we train, Joanne and I both, is based on Suzanne's work, which is a lot of the dog has to give you that. The dog makes a lot of these decisions, and you just set up the environment so the dog makes the right choice. And instead of you managing it all the time, instead of saying, watch me, you just teach them the auto check-in, and they know that they need to check in with you. So like little Kaiser, he's a young, very big puppy now. So sometimes it might take a little bit to get in the building, right? It might take a little bit to get in the building, but here you go. Thanks for posting that, Christy. There's the PDF for that. So hardest thing is he will not drop it. So you can actually do a trade initially, but don't overdo the trade, because some people are still trading. Like, I did a little bit of trade with my resource guarding min pin, and then I eventually, I I stopped doing it, and then she was better. So auto check-in's different than a watch me. Watch me is depending on you to make that call. The auto check-in is in Alex's case, she's trying to come in our building, stop, check in, focus, good, take a couple steps. Yeah, it might take you a little bit to get in there, but
Yep. And one of the other things with the auto check-in that I see frequently is this exercise. People have cookies and they do this far away from their face and they expect the dog to keep watching their face. No different than saying sit, right? That's a physical cue to the dog. The auto check-in is absolutely 100% the dog. It makes the decision to check in, and then they get heavily reinforced for it.
Right. So yeah. So Alexis also in a crate. He shouldn't come out until or he barks on the dogs. So you might need to set him up where he's not doing it. Actually, Joanne and I were having a conversation. My shepherd, Tango, does not usually bark at dogs in a crate, except for her dog. So we are setting it up so that in the future, I don't want him barking at anyone in a crate. So even, whatever the issue they have, I don't care. So we will manage it so that that doesn't happen again. Yep. So, and on walks, remember, so here's a little tip, you guys. I'd rather have you have a shorter walk with a little more stops and breaks and downs. So you need to do something to bring that arousal down. Continuing on your walk, because I know we get very mission oriented. Oh, we're gonna walk for 2 miles. It's like, no. We might only walk around the block, but we have stopped 100 times so that you will not get to practice that bad behavior. You can have a more productive walk. So.
Yep, and I challenge all of you with leash pulling issues or arousal issues like that. Go play fetch in your backyard for 10 minutes and go work on stopping and checking in and not pulling on the leash for 10 minutes. And I guarantee you tell me which one your dog's more tired afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? Mental stimulation for these dogs with arousal issues is so much more beneficial than physical exercise. They still need physical exercise, don't get me wrong. But to really get a break, I think, from some of these dogs that just seem relentless, teach them a trick, right? And this is stuff in your home where they're not necessarily being faced with things that are fearful or over arousing. Teach them a trick. Teach them some longevity on, a stay. Tricks are great. They really, really are to engage dogs' brains.
Right. And Susan, it sounds like your cane corso might be a little worried. So I would probably, don't worry about drop it. I would do the trade with him and I would refrain from opening his mouth physically. Cause the more the more you try to open his mouth, the more he's going to fight you on it. So.
And remember how big he's going to get. There'll be a day where you won't be able to win.
So definitely do a trade. If he has something, would give him a cookie. If he drops it, reinforce it, good dog, and then take whatever it is away. So that him dropping whatever it is not a bad thing. He gets there's a pot. If he drops it, then good things happen. You get, a treat or another toy or something to chew or something good. So you want to make the dropping it a good thing, like you get payment if you drop it, or something good's going to happen for you if you drop it, right? But physically getting into like you said, getting into an altercation with the dog, especially a dog that's going to be enormous, probably is not a good idea. So you always want, and no offense to the gentleman, you always want to make the dog thinks it's their idea, just like husbands a little bit. So so you really want to make it like their idea. They did it. So and mental exercise is very, very good. So you can do some hide and seek games. You can hide kibble and have the dogs find it and keep them mentally stimulated so that way it keeps them more mentally exercised. And the thing is, you guys, consistent is key. And I promise, keep teaching them some impulse control and how to control that arousal is going to be really helpful. So, and I'm going to give you an example. I have a very large 95-pound shepherd who's a love. He's a very atypical shepherd. He loves dogs. He loves people. He just thinks he's the biggest cuddler in the world. That's how he rolls. However, and this is what I mean by context, you guys. He is calm pretty much 90% of his life. He's pretty chilled. He's not a very excitable dog. He doesn't get worked up about much, except when dogs are getting when I'm working my 3 dogs and I take my girls out, he gets very excited and he barks in the crate. The other thing, any entrance and exit out of my business makes him bark. And he barks a lot. And so it's one of those things I'm going to have to manage it, but he gets very overstimulated when people are coming in and out. And he loves people. And when he's out where he can see the people coming in and out, he never barks. So that's what I mean, how contextually it depends for the dog. So while a dog might be chilled and calm in one scenario and the other one may not be that way. And those of you who have young dogs, you really are going to be very careful about how you introduce your puppy to new things and how they interact with that. And the other thing is, and so Vanessa, interestingly, my female shepherd does not bark when people come in and out. She's like, killer, I don't care, because she does, and he is not.
You have food.
Yeah.
If you have food, you can have everything in the house. I'm just hungry.
And my male shepherd is not exhibiting protective qualities at all. It's excitability about people coming in and out. And my female shepherd doesn't bark like at that stuff. Not a peep out of her. It's like, killer, I don't care. You have a cookie? So I have very unshepherdy shepherds, right? And the behaviors that like Kaiser's going through is really normal. It's normal for a shepherd, right? It's eventually, but you got to work at it. Don't give up. I promise you, it gets really good really quick. It's just, they have to go through that. Look what I got. Blah, 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 blah. They just love, you got to hear me out. This is what I got to talk about. So it's just the way it works, right? So that's number one. You calm down. You also want to teach them so it might take you a while to get around, but maintain that arousal. Keep bringing them down. Don't let them get so high, because once they get to a certain point, there's a point of no return, right, on that.
Yep.
Go ahead.
That's where management, right? We talked about the difference between management and training. That is where management gets in. Just get out of Dodge, right? When they've lost their mind and things just have gone to hell in a handbasket, go away, right? Go back, start over, right? Get as far away from the place as you can that's causing the issue, and just take a breather and start again, okay? Because what happens is there's no more learning happening. Don't try, right? They are so far gone. They're not going to learn a single thing except for practicing bad behavior.
Right. Yeah, Alexis, it's like they just can't shut up. So I feel you. But I promise it gets better. He'll probably be a chatty dog anyway, but he will learn how to control them. Yeah, shepherds have very big feelings. So, and they want to tell everybody about them. But the important thing is you're doing all the right things, Alex. He's going to classes. He's socializing with other dogs, which are really key at this time, at his age. Because I socialize my shepherds a lot when they're young, because then when they're older, like they are now, other dogs are great. They're good being around them, and I don't have any issues about aggression or anything like that. So it's really important. Wait till Joanne meets Riggs. Okay, so she can handle it.
Nancy thinks he's really cute, just so you know. That's the little shepherd puppy I was showing you.
Right, he's adorable. Yeah. Okay, so when you're seeing, and so I want you guys to recognize when the dog's when it's coming off the rails. If you can notice if they're losing fine motor control, like Joanne said, if you ask them to sit or down or something they know very well and they can't do it, their arousal is going up, and that's when you can make a change and into the situation, getting them out of there, or maybe moving away, getting them to calm down some, so that way you can get their range back, right? because that's what you're doing, is bringing that arousal down so the brains can engage.
Right. And I just have to add this because it's really hard as a human being. What we do is we're like, well, that went really well. Let's just try a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, right?
Don't do it.
A good training session, okay? If you're dealing with a dog that, has over arousal issues or even some reactivity, right? A really good training session means they never got there. Right? Don't push it to see how far you can go before they fall apart. A great training session, you don't see the behavior, right?
Yes, really important. That's why sometimes our reactive dog classes are like watching paint dry. It's boring. Nothing happens. But a reactive dog class does not mean all the dogs are barking and going off. That's not what, no. You want them to practice calm and being good around other dogs and being calm and relaxed around other dogs. Period. End of story. If they are barking and lunging, guess what they're practicing? Remember, practice makes permanent. So we don't want them to practice lunging and barking in a reactive dog class. A reactive dog class should be pretty boring. That's just it. If you've got dogs barking and going off, that means it's too big of a. It's too much, too intense of a situation for the dogs if they're barking and carrying on and all that stuff all the time. Let's see. Susan was asking, where can you go? Menards and Pet Shop for socialization? Yeah. And the one thing I would also work on with the Cane Corso, I'm going to be honest with you, because I work with that breed quite a lot, is have him be really good with people. Have people toss treats at him. Have people, even if he doesn't want to take the treats, have them toss it on the floor so he gets it. So he's going to associate food with people and that people are a good thing, especially with that breed. Same with Shepherds, Dobes, Rotties, Pitties. A lot of that. People are awesome, because when that goes bad, I know dog reactivity can be an issue, but you can have a really nice dog and they never have to have doggy friends. It's fine. But a dog that has people issues is really, really a bigger problem. Just a lot more of an issue. So.
Yeah. So, Chance, I get it. If it's been a long time and you're working on, like, if you guys have been gone for a little while and you're coming home, I mean, that's really hard, right? Like, I would be working on sit in the crate after his bladder's empty. Like, he's done his business. Go back. We're going to shut the crate door. You're going to sit. I'm going to give you a cookie. I'm going to open the door. You're going to go back in. I'm going to sit, give you a cookie, right? So he starts to get the repetitive. Right. I'm sitting in here, I'm getting paid. I'm sitting in here, I'm getting paid. Because you practice that enough times, you're going to walk up to that crate door. He's going to sit and be like, let me out, let me out, let me out. Right. So just make sure that, all the potty stuff happens first and then have your training session.
Yeah. All right, guys. We can keep talking because there's a lot more to cover. So let us know if you would be interested in having a part 2 to this, because there is more to cover, but an hour is a lot. So I will yes, we do. We use Canine Life and Social Skills, and usually and CGC classes, and usually that gets that'll get you ready for a therapy dog for a test, right? Yep.
And just letting you guys know, Nancy is the owner of For Your Canine in Elmhurst, Illinois. And I am the owner of For Better, For Worse in Rock Island, Illinois. If you liked this, we do these. We try to do them every single Sunday. There are occasions where we're both traveling and we can't. But we have different topics every Sunday. So if you could like our Facebook pages, you'll start to see the topics for each Sunday and see if you'd like to join. So these are definitely an ongoing thing, and you can contact us both for new topics, or if you have ideas, you can also contact us at Facebook there.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we'll plan on a part 2 next week. And so tune in for that, and we'll see you all. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.